What happens if a woman is kicked out of a bank without anyone knowing she actually owns it? This lounge is for genuine clients only. Those 6 words fell into the quiet space like a verdict. The speaker was Chloe Barrington, 44, branch manager of Capital Orion Bank, a place with marble walls and imported Italian leather chairs designed to remind everyone inside of social hierarchies. But that morning, this so-called elite lounge became the stage for an unannounced test. Chloe said it at exactly 10:17 a.m. when she noticed a woman in a gray sweater and dark jeans sitting quietly by a mahogany table. No designer bag, no expensive watch, no sign of power or status. Just a slim tablet resting on the table and a calmness that was hard to read. Chloe, in her ivory suit and frozen smile, approached without hesitation, as if carrying out a sacred duty to uphold order in a world she believed was right. What Chloe didn't know, and what all eyes watching didn't realize, was that this woman was Alana Brooks, 46, founder and CEO of Brooks and Mayfair Holdings, a private investment firm that owns a majority stake in Capital Orion following a high-profile acquisition 2 years prior. But this morning, Alana didn't arrive as a CEO. She came alone, no assistant, no driver, no marks of authority. She came to see how this place really operated when no one was watching, to understand the culture nurtured behind those gleaming walls. And it seemed she didn't have to wait long. When she requested a withdrawal transaction of $5 million, a teller invited her into the VIP area without further questions. But the moment she sat down, Chloe appeared, seemingly sensing something amiss. "We need proof to verify the source of funds," Chloe said, maintaining a strained politeness. Alana said nothing. She had heard those words, or their variants, too many times before. At 24, when she earned her first large sum from a real estate deal, her account was frozen for suspicious activity. At 28, despite collateral twice the requirement, she was denied a loan for being untrustworthy. 2 decades passed, dozens of successful deals, over $9 billion under management, and that same gaze remained. Suspicious, cold, tinged with disdain. But before Alana could open her tablet to present verification documents, a voice cut in. "Please don't hold up the line, ma'am." It was Reagan Lang, a private investor in a light gray suit with the expression of someone who believes money can buy respect. With a careless flick, he knocked Alana's tablet off the table. The sound of it hitting the floor was soft, but the invisible slap of the act echoed in every gaze. Alana didn't pick it up. She didn't need to, because today she wasn't here to convince anyone. She was here to observe, and to raise a question few are willing to face. If a casually dressed woman of color walks into the place she owns, will anyone respect her presence or just judge her by her cover? In that lounge, no one knew they had just started a test, not for Alana, but for themselves. Alana bent down and picked up the tablet that Reagan Lang had just knocked to the floor, her gaze calm and unreadable. There was no anger, no resentment, just a silence as deep as still water. Yet that very silence unsettled those around her. She reopened the device, tapped a few times, then placed the digital transaction history on the table. She didn't need to prove anything with words. She let the data speak for itself. But she didn't expect that the room wasn't interested in evidence. It only sought an excuse to exclude. "I'm serious," a female voice rose, light as a breeze but sharp as a blade. It was Cassidy Monroe, 29, a personal service specialist who had been standing by the coffee machine and now crossed her arms, leaning against a white marble column. That much money could be stolen. Who knows? Her words were quiet, but enough to make 2 nearby customers turn around. One frowned. The other raised a phone as if to record, then lowered it, unsure if it was worth intervening. Alana blinked slowly, a blink devoid of emotion, yet full of meaning. "Run my name," she said evenly, like a current flowing through cold steel. Chloe, still standing like a decorative statue, shook her head. "Sorry, but you're not verified in the system. This is a restricted area." In the corner, Omar Jenkins' phone, a 31-year-old fintech startup founder, suddenly lit up. He said nothing but quietly started recording video, angling the camera downward to avoid drawing attention. The red recording light flickered. Just then, a firm voice cut through. "Stop." Alana spoke for the first time with clear emphasis. "We settle this with the truth, not edited footage." From the row of seats near the window, a tall man stood. Jeremiah Boone, 42, wearing a dark suit, looked like an anonymous legal director among the crowd. He approached Omar and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Not now. When we want change, we use words, not clips, so they listen, not just watch. Omar stopped, nodding slightly. To Alana's left, a young woman, about 26, sat motionless, lips pressed tight, clutching her handbag. Her eyes shone with suppressed anger. Finally, unable to bear it, she whispered, "This is unacceptable." Alana turned toward her. "Speak clearly. Don't whisper as if you're the one at fault." The woman stood, exhaling sharply. "The guilty aren't her. They are those here who think they have the right to humiliate others." Whispers spread like spilled oil. An elderly woman nearby cupped her hands, eyes drifting away. A young father holding his child glanced at his wife. The lounge, once designed to convey privacy and exclusivity, now echoed with questions no one dared answer. "I'm calling security," Cassidy said softly, but loud enough for all to hear. Chloe made no move to stop her. Reagan still leaned against the pillar, smirking faintly. "Does anyone really think this woman has $500,000 in her account? She belongs in a pawn shop." A slip of paper slid across the floor at Reagan's feet, stopping right by Alana. Maya, the woman who had spoken, bent down, picked it up, and read aloud. "Go to a pawn shop." For a moment, time seemed to freeze, not because of the insult, but because of what it revealed, the attitude of an entire system. Alana looked up, her voice calm yet weighty. "Every word spoken just now not only destroys the dignity of a bank, it betrays the very reason this institution was founded." And so, the storm had just begun. Chloe tapped lightly on her wristwatch, signaling Cassidy, and within seconds, the bank's front desk phone rang. The tension was palpable, the entire room seeming to hold its breath, waiting for a switch to be flipped and everything to collapse. But instead of reacting, Alana pulled out her own phone and dialed a number marked in red. Renee Carlisle, executive assistant and the only person who knew exactly where Alana was that morning. "Renee," she said, her voice slicing through the haze like a blade. "Activate Protocol 7. Start Phase 1. On the other end, Renee didn't ask questions. "Ready, Alana. All recordings, access logs, and delegation orders are synced to your personal file in the internal system. Everything they say is being recorded and sent to the company's ethics board, including the call to security. All data is time-stamped." Alana didn't respond, just nodded slightly as if affirming to herself that this was no longer a cultural test. This was a living ethical referendum, where those who thought they held power were slowly self-exiling. In the corner, Trevor Lang smirked, leaning against a marble pillar as if the unfolding scene didn't concern him. "I've got an appointment with investment advisors. As for this woman, she should be removed before she causes trouble. I should be in the vault room right now." He waved a platinum client card like a talisman, the kind he believed placed him above all other rules. But what he didn't know was that this very card, and the attitude he attached to it, was being monitored every millisecond by a customer behavior algorithm just activated by Renee for remote tracking. Within minutes, every move would be coded, analyzed, and reported. A boy around 8 years old tugged his mother's hand and asked quietly, but loud enough for the room to hear, "Mom, why are they kicking her out?" The mother froze, her eyes locking onto Alana before quickly looking away, as if facing the truth was too hard. But the truth waits for no one. It stood right before them, embodied in a calm woman of color, wearing a gray sweater, speaking no raised words, but everyone striking the core of human dignity. Chloe turned to Cassidy, revealing her first sign of hesitation, yet her tone remained even. "Security is on the way. She is not authorized." Alana pressed her phone again. Renee continued, "I've accessed the 2021 bank acquisition contract. Your name is listed as the highest-level co-signatory for financial authority. Anyone refusing to verify you legally violates Clause 14.3 regarding shareholder system access rights." Jeremiah Boone had risen from his seat and stepped next to Alana. He said nothing, just stood there, as if his presence was a statement. "I stand with you." Maya, the young woman who had spoken earlier, now gripped her phone so tightly her knuckles whitened. "If you call security," she said, "then call justice along with them." Cassidy was about to protest, but Omar stepped forward. "I have a recording of your conversation from the moment I entered." He didn't raise his phone. He didn't need to. Everything was being live-streamed to the bank's internal ethics archive, but Alana remained the only one not yelling or threatening. She simply said, "The mirror hung in this room isn't to reflect your face, but to show how you treat others. And today, I begin to break that mirror." The name Alana Brooks had yet to be uttered by anyone in the room, but her presence was like the first crack in what seemed an unbreakable wall, a wall where authority, prejudice, and false civility coexisted under the guise of premium service. And that crack was just beginning to spread. "She's an imposter!" Cassidy Monroe almost shouted, as if raising her voice could replace evidence. Chloe stood behind the consultation desk, her hands beginning to tremble, but her tone still firm. "You're causing a disturbance in the VIP area. Security will arrive shortly, and when they do, you'll have to explain your unauthorized use of personal information." She turned to the desk phone and pressed another button. "I'm requesting enhanced security." In the corner, Reagan Lang chuckled, a superior, condescending laugh, then spoke up. "If she really had $500,000 in that account, I'd be the governor of Louisiana. Who dresses like that and gets authorized to withdraw such an amount?" An older man nearby frowned. A middle-aged woman of color exhaled sharply, but no one spoke up. No one wanted to be the first to break the silence. And then, as if pouring fuel on the fire of bias, Cassidy spoke louder. "That money could be dirty money. No one legitimately wealthy walks in looking like that." Alana's eyes drilled into Cassidy's. She didn't yell or retort with harsh words. She simply asked, "What are you wearing today to be considered trustworthy?" Jeremiah stepped forward. "Enough," he said. "She's requesting verification, and instead of addressing that, everyone's rushing to insult her. That's not professionalism, that's prejudice." Chloe snapped back. "You don't have authority here." Just then, the glass door slid open. A tall figure in a dark blue uniform entered. Marcus Till, the head of security. He scanned the room quickly, then approached Alana. "Excuse me, ma'am," his voice steady. "I've been instructed to ask you to leave this area until your identity is verified." He gestured toward the tablet on the table. Alana didn't resist. She simply said, "If you touch my device without clear legal grounds, I'm afraid it will be you who needs verification." Marcus hesitated. His gaze faltered. At that moment, Renee spoke through the phone. "I am unlocking Protocol 7, Phase 2. The recording of Chloe's call to security, with its baseless accusations, has been sent to the ethics system. Any coercive action from now on may be considered a violation of organizational rules and the law." A heavy silence engulfed the room. Then, something unexpected happened. Imani Frazier, 24, a risk management intern, who had sat silently all morning, suddenly stood, her voice shaky but firm. I know about the silent risk client list Cassidy's using. I saw it in the classification system. They flag clients based on how they dress, speak, and their skin color. I was told not to disclose this." The room seemed to lose all air. Chloe spun around sharply. "Imani, do you know what you're saying?" Imani took a deep breath, tears welling up, but she didn't look down. "I know, and I've kept quiet long enough." For the first time since Alana arrived, all eyes turned toward her. But this time, there was no suspicion. There was anticipation, because everyone realized, if this was just a test, then it was they, not the woman standing there, who were the ones being judged. Alana Brooks stood firm like a pillar in the eye of the storm. She didn't need anyone to defend her, nor did she need apologies, because what she needed now wasn't pity, but recognition, a glaring truth they had deliberately ignored from the start. She didn't just have rights here, she owned this place. "You still haven't asked who I am," she said calmly, each word echoing against the high ceiling of the lounge. "No one asked, because you thought you already knew." Cassidy pressed her lips tightly, while Chloe stared as if trying one last time to turn the tide. "Stop the act. If you really have the money, if you're really someone important, why hide your identity?" "Good question," Alana nodded. She opened the tablet, the same one Trevor Lang had knocked to the floor earlier, and pulled up a folder marked with a yellow lock icon. With a simple swipe, she opened it. Inside, notarized copies of controlling shares ownership of Capital Orion, appointment letters from the board of directors, and an internal ID badge bearing the name Alana J. Brooks, CEO of Brooks and Mayfair Holdings. No one spoke. No one needed to. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said, her eyes scanning the room, I am the one who signed off on the operating budget of this branch, the one who approved your payroll, and the person you asked to leave this very room this morning, the room you built yourselves." Reagan Lang seemed to be struck in the chest. He sank into a leather chair, avoiding eye contact. Chloe stepped back, lips moving but silent. Cassidy staggered, clutching the table to steady herself. Only Jeremiah, unchanged, met her gaze, but now it was the gaze of a man witnessing history unfold before him. From the speakerphone, Renee Carlisle's voice came through, clearer than before. "I confirm the identity and senior executive authority of Mrs. Alana Brooks. Under Protocol 7 Emergency Ethics Clause, you have full authority to act on-site. All data, behavior, and speech here in the last 45 minutes have been recorded and encrypted into the internal monitoring system ready to be sent to the Central Disciplinary Board." Alana nodded lightly. Let the system do its job. But the job she was about to do, no one else could do for her. No one in the room moved. Those who had been the loudest moments before were now as silent as statues. A voice, seemingly ordinary, not shouting, not pounding the table, declared a name that shattered their entire system of trust in less than a minute. But Alana Brooks did not stop there, because her presence today was not to intimidate, but to cleanse. "I'll start with you, Chloe Barrington," Alana said, eyes fixed on the branch manager trembling like a dying clock. "Your contract is terminated immediately for discriminatory behavior, abuse of power, and wrongful activation of security protocols. Every call, every word, every refusal has been recorded." Chloe opened her mouth, about to speak, but her voice had lost its usual pitch. "I don't know who you are." "And precisely because you don't know who I am," Alana interrupted, "you assumed you had the right to decide who deserves respect." Her gaze shifted to Cassidy. "Cassidy Monroe, you are fired for deliberately assigning financial risk to clients based on personal bias, making offensive remarks, and obstructing legitimate verification processes. I have 4 instances of you providing false information about clients simply because of inappropriate attire." Cassidy burst into tears, not out of regret, but because she knew she could not deny the facts. Next was Marcus, head of security. "You are suspended immediately for attempting unjustified coercive actions. The law does not protect those who follow orders when those orders are wrong." Marcus did not respond, only nodded slowly. Perhaps he understood, or knew there was no other way. Then Alana turned to Trevor Lang. "And you, Mr. Lang, once an intern at my company 10 years ago, dismissed for lying to clients. Today you mimic the same old behavior, arrogance, discrimination, and contempt for those unlike you. Effective immediately, you are banned from using any financial services within my system, permanently." "You have no right!" Trevor jumped up. "I am a priority client." "No," Alana said. "You are the perfect example of why we must redefine what priority means." A small round of applause broke out, from Maya, the brave young woman who had spoken earliest. Jeremiah nodded beside her. Omar, who had stopped recording, whispered, "Finally, someone does the right thing." Then a silver-haired woman customer stood quietly and clapped. Another followed, then the whole room. It was not cheering, it was liberation. The atmosphere in the room shifted. No longer was it the suffocating weight of twisted authority or the silence of a complicit crowd. Now there was a strange feeling of a new beginning, as if everyone had just witnessed a crack in the fake facade, allowing real light to shine through. But Alana Brooks did not come to claim victory. She came to lay a new foundation. "From this moment," she said clearly but without coldness, "all activities at this branch will be suspended. No new transactions, no meetings will take place, no customer files will be processed until we start over from scratch." Not a single complaint. On the contrary, some customers nodded, others applauded, not because they agreed with the disruption, but because they understood. For the first time, someone in the system dared to say, "Enough. I will initiate the Interaction Equity Program, Summit Equity Program, right here, right now, not next quarter, not at some flashy seminar. We will test a new system, speech auditing, dialogue analysis, and value commitments spoken directly, person to person. Every employee here who wishes to continue working must undergo an evaluation, not only of their expertise, but also of how they communicate with customers." From the speakerphone, Renee's voice rang out again, this time through the internal conference system, no longer over a private line. "Documents are prepared. The internal ethics audit team is en route to the branch. Full authority has been granted to Ms. Brooks during the reestablishment process." Imani Frazier, the intern who had bravely spoken up, raised her hand gently. Her voice trembled, but her eyes shone proudly. "Ms. Alana, speech auditing? What does that mean?" Alana smiled, not formal, not defensive. "It means from now on, we will not only check account balances. We will also check how employees speak to customers. Words ignored, invisible looks, biases wrapped in phrases like, 'We're sorry, but,' all will be recorded. No more personal feelings or just misunderstandings." Omar nodded quietly. "That is humanity." Jeremiah whispered, "For the first time, I see a banking organization speak from the heart." Then suddenly a voice rose from the back, hoarse but strong. It was Marcus, the recently suspended head of security. He stepped into the circle, no longer bearing the posture of a rule-bound employee. "I need to say this," he said, hands hanging loosely, "not to beg forgiveness but to take responsibility." No one interrupted him. Alana remained silent. "I know there were wrongdoings in this system," Marcus continued, "and I didn't stop them. In fact, I was the one Chloe assigned to guard the door, not letting unsuitable people stay too long in this room. I called security to expel customers, refused to check files, pretended not to hear when discrimination happened." A brief silence followed, then he took a deep breath. "But today, seeing you stand there, no yelling, no filming, just truth, I realized I had never worked for anyone worthy. Until now." Alana stepped closer to him. "Do you want to stay, Marcus?" Marcus shook his head. "I don't deserve it. But if you allow me, I will stand on the side of change, not to make amends, but to ensure this never happens to anyone else." Alana looked at him for a long moment. "Then you will not stand alone." The whole room seemed to exhale, not a conclusion, but a real beginning. A morning that began with ridicule, suspicion, and cold refusals had now transformed into a silent hearing. No courtroom, no gavel, just a woman standing in the lobby and an entire system being rebuilt word by word. But those words did not come from revenge. They came from truth. And the truth had just found its voice. As the atmosphere in the Capital Orion Bank's waiting room gradually calmed, a sudden sound echoed, the slow footsteps and labored breath of an elderly man. All eyes turned. A man in his 70s, dressed neatly in a light gray suit, rose from a seat near the window. The priority customer badge still pinned on his lapel. He spoke in a hoarse yet resonant voice. "My name is Richard Langford. I was the regional training manager here for nearly 20 years, and I personally trained the first employees of this branch, including Chloe and Cassidy." No one interrupted. He looked toward Alana, then bowed his head, not out of shame, but as an honest admission from the heart. "I want to say what I should have said long ago. This system does not explicitly instruct employees to discriminate verbally, but we taught them to filter customers based on words like appropriate, trustworthy, financial quality, business demeanor. We thought we were optimizing service, but in reality, we were creating a standard of exclusion." The room fell silent. And today, for the first time in my life, I see someone stand up and reverse that entire process, not through power, but through courage. I no longer work for this bank, but I want to return to help dismantle what I once built. Alana nodded. "Do that, Mr. Langford. Not for me, but for all those who were excluded simply because they didn't look the part the system deemed appropriate." At that moment, Renee Carlisle rejoined the line. "I report that 17 customers previously flagged as internal risk have no violations or complaints on record. 15 of them are people of color or of Latin descent. The list will be handed over to an external audit." Alana closed her eyes briefly, then opened them. "Then officially, this is not an incident. This is a culture, and today, we begin to dismantle it." Zara, the young woman sitting by the glass wall since the start, suddenly stood. Her eyes were red, but her gaze was proud. "I came here just to open an account for my small photography studio, and I almost gave up. But now I want to say, thank you for showing me I'm not invisible." Alana approached, took her hand. "That account will be opened, not by the front desk staff, but by the executive board itself. No fees, no conditions. Because today, you are not just seen, you are trusted." Applause spread throughout the room. not out of anger, but out of hope. Then Alana turned, facing the entire room. Her voice lowered yet steady. I don't need cameras to speak up. I don't need to shout to be heard. I stand here, quietly, simply, like so many customers who have come into this bank and been judged simply because they don't look like someone who should be served. But from today on, this place will no longer exclude those who enter with truth. From today on, Summit Wealth will no longer be defined by numbers, but by the value of people. The lobby doors did not close behind her. They remained open, not only to welcome the breeze, but to welcome what is right. In the world of finance, numbers can be polished, records can be altered, but how a person is treated cannot stay hidden for long. Alana Brooks didn't need anger to demand justice. She only needed truth and steadfastness. Today's story is not just a shift in power. It's a reminder that organizational culture doesn't start with rules, but begins with every word spoken, every gaze exchanged. If you believe respect is a right, not a reward, please like this video, subscribe so you don't miss stories that awaken conscience, and leave a comment with the phrase "deserve more" if you've ever been misjudged by your appearance.